Hey everybody, welcome back to the Modern Trumpeter Podcast. This week, we get to hear from a truly legendary figure in not only trumpet, but also in the music business, the great Jerry Hay. Emerging from the Hollywood studio scene of the 1980s, Jerry revolutionized the sound of pop music through his innovative horn arrangements and performances. His distinctive style became a signature of countless hit records and film scores. As a first-call arranger for Quincy Jones, Jerry's career includes some of the most iconic artists of the era, including Michael Jackson, Earth, Wind & Fire, Brothers Johnson, Donna Summer, Rufus, George Benson, Patty Austin, James Ingram, Frank Sinatra, and many, many others. He also has just released a book entitled Notes from the Past 50 Years, a 250-page collection of pop excerpts written and performed throughout his legendary career. This remarkable volume features over 200 licks accompanied by personal stories and rare images that trace his journey from his early days in Los Angeles to his most iconic sessions. In this collection, Jerry shares his favorites, his most celebrated, and even some hidden musical gems. Be sure to order your copy now for the holidays. I know mine is already on its way. Speaking of books, our book, The Modern Trumpeter, will be available in 2026. With insights and stories from dozens of professional trumpet players working in jazz, classical, commercial, and military settings, this book gives you the tools, mindset, and insider knowledge to turn your talent into a sustainable career. Insights, stories, and behind the scenes of the music industry are provided by the likes of Wayne Bergeron, Bobby Shue, Bria Skomberg, Bijan Watson, Marcus Printup, Glenn Marhevka, Dave Richards, Jay Webb, Jerry Hay, Brian McDonald, Kiku Collins, and many, many more. Now, here is my interview with Jerry Hay. Where are you from, and how did you first get into the trumpet?
I'm from a small town in northern Illinois called Dixon, and my family was all musical. My dad played trombone, my mom played piano, my 10-year older brother played trombone, my 8-year older brother played tuba. A lot of music in the house all the time. And my 10-year-old brother happened to be in the Boy Scouts, and he had to play bugle reveille. So he brought it home one day, and I picked it up, and that was it. So I was about 18 months old then. I got my first trumpet or cornet actually when I was 3, and then played in church when I was 3 with my mother accompanying me on piano.
Wow.
So yeah, started early.
That's awesome. So it's been pretty much your whole life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know anything else. I can't do anything else, so I was stuck.
Yeah. Did you ever, as you were growing up, was it, was there a moment where you're like, yeah, I want to make trumpet a living and a career, or was it, what was that like?
It just always was. So I didn't really think about it probably until later in high school. I ended up taking from Charlie Geyer, who played in Chicago Symphony, taught at Eastman, taught at Northwestern, ended up teaching at Rice. I took from him in high school.
Okay.
And so then it started getting serious then. But I hadn't really thought much about it. Okay, I like this and I like doing this. I like playing trumpet. I went to college and, just kind of happened into it. I didn't really have a set goal in mind, which was kind of crazy at that time, but
Yeah.
It just kind of happened.
Yeah. And so there was no, you didn't maybe consider any other careers or anything. I guess you just kind of just went with the flow.
Basically, I mean, only thing two things that I kind of considered. I was good at math. I liked math a lot. So I thought, well, maybe I'll be a math teacher. That was sort of, okay, I could do that. I could see that. The other thing was a pro bowler. I loved bowling, and I was good in high school, very good in high school. But, nothing happened with that, obviously.
Well, that's interesting. It's cool to hear about, knowing what we know now, like you've done so much for music and your career's been so expansive, to think that maybe you would have been a math teacher. Like that's
yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how long I would have survived doing that.
Yeah. And when I was talking with Wayne, he said that, he very easily could have become like a machinist or a mechanic because he was around all that, and his dad did all that stuff when he was younger, and so he could have gone in that direction. But obviously he didn't, and he's done so much for trumpet and for music and stuff and whatnot. So it's cool to hear. I mean, I think inspiring for the young generation to hear that you know people such as yourselves could have gone a different direction with their lives in different careers, but because they you chose music and trumpet, that look what happened. So maybe the same could happen for these young musicians too. So that's very cool. Where did you go to university, to school?
Indiana University. Ended up taking from William Adam, who I think is probably the greatest trumpet teacher that ever has been. Amazing man, the best man I've ever met, and that has nothing to do with trumpet. He was just a wonderful person, could do anything, built his own house, woodworking, made his own stereo speakers, crazy stuff, built a cabin in Colorado from scratch. I mean, like cutting down the trees scratch, and doing that. Yeah, he's an amazing guy, so that was I give him a lot of credit for everything that I've done because one, his teaching was great. I wasn't ready to play trumpet like I should have been, and he got me there. And and just his attitude and how he treats everybody, and it just he was a whole package for sure. And then I happened to meet Larry Hall, and so we've been best friends ever since 1968. He was also a big part of my career. We spent a lot of time practicing together. I mean, a lot of time practicing together. And he's 2 years older than I am. So he had been taking from Mr. Adams since high school. So he was pretty advanced.
Yeah.
Even as when I got there as a freshman and he was a junior, he was well established playing trumpet and could play everything. Played lead in the jazz band, played in the orchestras, just everything. So that kind of changed because when I went there, I was going to be a classical trumpet player. I only played C trumpet, after having taken from Geyer. So, and then I heard Larry play and I go, whoa, I mean, he can do everything I can do, and he plays jazz and he plays lead and he can play high notes and play all over the horn and beautiful sound. And I want to do that. So, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
What a cool place to meet, and yeah, kind of get a reality check almost of like, oh, I gotta put in the time, put in the work.
Definitely 250 trumpet players. You better figure it out, or you're going to end up teaching math.
Yeah. You have to change your degree. And so what happened after that? What did you do after university, and did you have any career goals or anything that you were wanted to accomplish on trumpet?
I guess then, having sort of changed that I was going to be an orchestra trumpet player to just kind of play everything. And I was always, I mean, growing up, my dad heard Clifford Brown live and bought his first record that Clifford Brown made with the original Cherokee Memorial. So I listened to, growing up in high school, I listened to all Clifford Brown stuff, and I could play probably 25 solos of Clifford Brown that I just memorized and could play. But I switched over into the orchestral thing after playing with Geyer. And then going to Indiana, I kind of, okay, I just want to do it all. I want to be able to play everything. The only thing that I thought about was, well, maybe LA would be the place for me. I didn't really want to live in New York, which was more of a jazz scene, and I didn't want to really do so. That was only kind of in the back of my mind that one day I'd end up in LA. But at school, Larry Hall, when he graduated, went over to Hawaii and started working in Hawaii. A friend of his was already over there, the saxophone player, and the saxophone player called him up and said, there's some work over here if you want to come. So Larry went, and he'd been over there for 3 months, I guess, and said, there's more work over here. Happened to call up Mr. Adam in his office when I was at a lesson. He's talking to Mr. Adam from Hawaii, and Mr. Adam says, it's Larry, it's for you. And Larry said, do you want to come to Hawaii? And I said, Well, I don't know. I better ask Mr. Adams, see what he says. And he gave me the go ahead, said, you've learned all you're going to learn here. You go over there with Larry and you guys are going to tear it up. So he gave me the okay. I had asked my parents. They didn't very happy with that, but fortunately it worked out okay. So,
Yeah.
went over to Hawaii and, started working with Larry. So that was great.
Yeah. And was that on Oahu?
Yeah, in Honolulu. A lot of local Hawaiian Vegas type shows in
Hmm.
the early 70s then.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, must have been really nice living
It
there.
was it was a great time. We weren't making much money. Didn't really matter. No debt, no nothing really,
Yeah.
basically. Trumpet, shorts and a t-shirt and sandals, and that was about it. But we were playing a lot, practicing a lot, playing in we had a couple rehearsal bands over there, really good rehearsal bands. I
Okay.
mean, like primo stuff, especially when Gary Grant came over and we had, it was a really great band. So that was good. It was a great musical learning time for us.
Yeah, definitely. And how long were you there for again?
I went over and um, we eventually formed Seawind over there, and Seawind went on these little tours to the mainland. We were in Alaska for a little bit, off and on in Hawaii. We were there 5 years. The last time we were there, it was like we were there without leaving. I think it was 2.5 years or something.
Wow. Cool.
Great time. You go to the beach, go to rehearsal in the afternoon, play at night, repeat.
Yeah. Man, that does sound
Yeah.
nice. That sounds so nice. And do you know if there's still like a type of scene out there in Hawaii now?
Uh, I don't think the work is happening like it was then. I mean, it was really busy. Larry went over, I went over, Gary Grant went over, and then we even some other trumpet players came over. Chuck Finley came over one time. Ollie Mitchell moved over there, if you know of Ollie Mitchell.
I don't know
Great
if I know
play,
him, but I'll look him up.
great player in the 60s. He was the guy before Chuck was here in the
Okay.
60s. Great player. So there was a lot going on over there. There are still some guys over there that, are trying to keep it going, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I could imagine. But yeah, that would have been, yeah. That's almost the ideal gig. Is just
Yep, yes, it was. I mean, so we were over there for a while, and then Charlie Davis, who was also at Indiana. He played lead on Buddy Rich for a long time. He's also in LA making trumpets and mutes. And Charlie called me and asked me to go on Woody Herman's band. So I
okay.
went in Woody Herman's band and did traveling around and busing and all that stuff. And it was kind of crazy. I went to Woody and I said, Woody, thanks a lot. I'm going back to Hawaii. It's a better band in Hawaii than it was on Woody's band. And,
Yeah,
I'll go back there and have a better time and, not have to travel around and stuff. So, that it
yeah,
shows how good the band was in Hawaii.
yeah. That's saying something. If
Yeah.
yeah, move back. Okay, and then so at what point did you start doing arrangements for horns?
Well, when we formed the beginnings of Seawind, we were playing like top 40 stuff or kind of whatever we wanted to play, really. I mean, we were playing Mahavishnu and we were playing Weather Report and you name it, we were playing it. There was also a singer involved. So we were playing Aretha Franklin, we were playing, whatever. So we needed horn parts. So, okay, I can do that. I have perfect pitch. It's kind of easy for me to take stuff off.
Yeah,
I started taking stuff off. And, little did I know that by doing that, I was kind of seeing what those records, how those horn parts sounded on those records and what they did and how they wrote them. I was kind of learning on the job, sort of.
yeah, definitely. It was kind of like a lot of just ear training, I guess, and like understanding that. What were some of like the groups that like, inspired you writing and that you transcribed in the beginning?
Well, we did Tower Power. We did 3 or 4 songs of Tower Power. We did Record Brothers stuff.
Mhm.
You know, we did Aretha Franklin. Like I said, there was a group called Cold Blood that was a San Francisco group, and they had a girl singer, similar voice to the one that was in our singer in Seawind. So we did some of those things. And then, like I said, whatever it was, Mahavishnu or Weather Report or some of our own material early on, it just kind of said, well, we're standing up there. We better have something to play. So I just started doing it.
Yeah. So through that experience, what was maybe like your first like call where we got called to write something for a band?
Well, so we formed Seawind, and we'd been playing over there for a while, and some people came and heard us, and they said, well, you guys should move to LA and make a record. So it was Harvey Mason Sr., the drummer, who played on a zillion records, who was our first producer. So we moved over to LA. We didn't really have anything to do other than get ready to make a record. But Harvey was playing with Lee Ritenour, guitar player, at the Baked Potato 1 or 2 nights a week. And then they were going to go out on tour. So Harvey got us into the Baked Potato. So
Okay.
we played at the Baked Potato 1 or 2 nights a week. And so people started hearing us. And then we'd been there about 3 months, and I got a phone call from Quincy. And he said, do you want to come in and play on a record? And yes. When and where? And I'm there.
Yeah.
And he said, I want you to arrange. I said, you want me to arrange? And he said, yeah. Okay. And he said, and I'd like to have Snooky Young play with you in the section. And I said, well, yeah, he's only like one of my favorite all-time lead trumpet players. So that was, I mean, pretty soon on when we had gotten here. I have no idea how he got my home phone
Wow.
number.
Yeah.
And we didn't play a lot in this thing, but he liked what we did, and it was an opportunity for him to hear us, and that kind of opened the door for me.
Yeah. Wow. First writing gig was with Quincy Jones.
Not necessarily, it wasn't necessarily the first one, but it was the first major one. So when we were playing at the Baked Potato, guys would come up and say, I'm doing a record and I want you to play on our record. Okay. And, want you to do the horn part. So we'd go in and, play on these nothing records. But we'd go in there and I'd write something, we'd go and listen to it, and I'd listen and say, well, that sucks. Let's change that. That sounds horrible. Because I never studied arranging or any of that stuff. It just kind of like, okay, what works for us?
Yeah.
We'd play this stuff and figure it out. Okay, well, that sounds pretty good. I like that, but I don't like that. Let's change that. And so kind of learning on the job. We did a few of those before the Quincy thing, but it was for nobody, and it never probably even came out.
Okay. Wow. And then was it intimidating at all, that Quincy project?
Not really. I mean, I knew we could play it. I didn't know whether he'd like what I wrote or not. He sent at the time, sent me a cassette back in the day, sent me a cassette, do your thing. Okay. Well, I didn't write much, but he loved everything we played. And he's such a great guy. You meet him the first time and it's like you've known him your whole life. So, that was great. Everything's very comfortable. Snooky was there, they go way back. So, it was great.
Yeah, that's incredible. So when you're writing, as you've developed that skill, what's your process like for coming up with parts and
So, people send me, like back in the day, a cassette or a DAT or, now MP3, and and they just say, do your thing. And, I don't get any chart or any, music or anything ever sent with it.
okay.
So, first you got to transcribe the record, what they sent you, you know. And as I'm doing that, if I hear something, a horn part, the first time, I'll always just scratch it down. Always, it would be, back in the day with the cassette, I'd had a Sony Walkman, headphones, piece of paper, taking it off, and I could take off a tune in 5 minutes, kind of. But if there would be okay, and I'd come up with some horn idea, I just write it down real quick. So, starting with that, and then the more time that I have with something, and it wasn't always a lot, but the more time that I have, the more I can kind of develop it and hone it a little bit.
Okay. Were these mostly pop, R&B records, or was it kind of any?
Yeah, mostly.
Was there ever a time where you changed into like a notation software program like Sibelius or Finale?
A guy who was a songwriter who had a lot of hits in the early 90s, Britney Spears and stuff. So he was doing a Broadway show, which was going to be kind of disco. It was called Beyond the Velvet Rope, kind of a sort of a Studio 54 disco type of story. And he was writing these songs for it and wanted me to write the horn parts for it, but he wanted demos because it was a Broadway production. So he wanted some demos. And I said, I got like 40 years of demos out there that what I do.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, I know, but this is, it's a little different thing. And the people, with the money need to hear stuff. And okay, I get it. So my son is an engineer.
Cool. Very good.
Yeah, he works for Harvey Mason Jr.
Okay.
And he's Harvey's engineer, and my son records every horn thing that we do now. He's brilliant. I mean, really brilliant.
That's awesome.
So he set me up in Logic.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm the basic of basic in Logic. But so I can make a horn chart in Logic now, and it sounds pretty good. I will say it's as good a demo horn parts sounding as I've heard anyway. But it takes me forever to do a horn chart in there. It takes probably 10 times as long as it would take me to write it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But then you can print out the parts, and it looks pretty good in Logic.
Yeah.
Not, it's not user friendly, and it's not made to print parts, but I make it work.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's been probably about 15 years now.
15 years.
Yeah, that I've been doing that.
Okay. So you never got like Finale or Sibelius or any of those programs?
Did not want to do that. I mean, it's another instrument you have to learn, and I didn't really want to do that. And you got to keep updating and, learning new, not interested in doing that at all.
Yeah. I get it. I got Finale back when I was in high school and used it off and on, and then used it a little bit more seriously within the last 5 years or so. And then recently, you may have heard that they kind of shut down.
Yeah.
I got a different one and that they recommended, and it's been a learning curve to have to relearn everything. And
yeah, so far Logic is kind of, it's okay.
Yeah.
It does. It's kind of a pain, but
okay,
I can get around it.
would you go, would you recommend to people to use Logic or system, or would you just say just write it down?
It depends on how efficient you are on Logic, and I'm not. I mean, when my son is, Logic, Pro Tools, Melodyne, I mean, his computer skills in that you can ask, Wayne or Dan Fanero or anybody, and they'll say he's the best they've ever worked with.
Oh, cool.
So he gets on Logic I have asked a question and something that would take me like 5 minutes, I mean, literally takes him like 10 seconds, so I'm not that versed in Logic to know all of the tricks, and he's got all the quick keys and all that stuff. I don't,
All set up.
so, it's faster for me I can write something out way faster than I can, especially when you get into fancy kind of syncopated licks and 16th notes and triplets and all that stuff, and the quantization and all that stuff takes forever to make it look right in Logic.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I guess this, whatever the Google pad that you can actually write in it and it will change it into like a print. I forget what it's called. Space. Anyhow, there's that. You have a stylus and you can actually write. I should probably check that out and see, because that would be easier for me.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that. I'm gonna have to look into that too. Technology is crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of learning, and then they upgrade it and change it.
Yeah, I still have Finale on my computer, but it won't open 90% of the time, and then it's like I have the file saved as but I can pull them out other places, but it's going to be all messy, and it's just.
So when we first, not first started, but the first, I don't know, 10, 15 years of work in town, every time we'd go to a session, I'd have them give me I would take the cassette that they sent to me to write the song in, and then I'd have them on the other side of the cassette re-record what we recorded with the horns up loud.
Okay.
I did that. So I had a whole bunch of cassettes. I mean, all of the Michael Jackson stuff would, direct from the horn sessions. And I had transferred those into Logic. My son set me up with a Scarlett thing, transfer, So I transferred out of the cassette into Logic 9. Great. Okay, that's cool. So I got all of this stuff in Logic 9. I guess I didn't quite set it all up right, because when Logic 10 came out, none of that information was saved. So I lost all of it, and I had thrown the cassettes out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I still have a few. I have the Michael Jackson cassettes and, a few of the good ones, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that I lost.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it was a bummer. So that kind of turned me off the Logic, and now every time there's an update, I go like, okay, now what am I going to lose?
Yeah. Jeez. What was it like to write for that Thriller album? And did you get to work with Michael at all, or was he present?
Yeah, he was always there.
Always there.
Quincy was the guy who answered any questions, though. I mean, Michael was a little more involved in Bad, but still, it was, if there were any questions, I'd go through Quincy. But, Billie Jean, I went over to Michael's house up in his bedroom and to listen to the demo of Billie Jean.
Wow.
So, I mean, we had done a lot. And I worked on the Jackson Destiny record, the Jackson's Triumph record. Tito had an album I did, Jermaine. I played on all of those and arranged on all of those records.
Wow. What were some of your favorite projects that you got to do, or favorite artists you got to work with and write for?
Well, of course, Michael, of course. But that's because of Quincy. I mean, everything Quincy did, they were the best sessions. It was the most fun. It sounded amazing. The engineer that Quincy used was just otherworldly. The pay was always good. Food was always good. The vibe was great. It was just the best of times. So anything with Quincy. David Foster, brilliant in the studio, amazing pianist, producer, songwriter, everything. Everything with him was great. Maurice White, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
Great in the studio. Wonderful guy. What are you going to say?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. With Earth, and Wind, and Fire, did you do a lot of their stuff, all of it, some of it?
I started with, well, In the Stone.
Yeah.
That was the first record I did with them.
Okay.
I did that after Love Is Gone. I did 3 or 4 on that record, I guess. An instrumental called Rock That. And then after that, I probably did another 10 or 12 records with them,
Yeah.
like that.
And you
Um,
played on everything you wrote, yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. It was a great time.
Yeah. Let's see. What have been some other of your like career highlights that you'd say?
Career highlights.
Special
The what?
any like special memories or any standout sessions or whatnot.
Well, I mean, every session, Gary Grant was on 99% of everything I ever did. And he was a great guy and would give 1000% every time. There was never a time that it was like, nah, that's good enough. Not for Gary. It was never, and that he was a big part of everything, why we sounded so good. So every session, and then with the key guys, Bill Reichenbach, Larry Williams, the 4 of us, every time we go there, it was like you were in a family, and you go in and you have a great time. You
Yeah.
play great music. Everybody's in tune with making this as good as we can make it. I mean, every session, we never went to a session that, we did a whole bunch of Japanese stuff, a whole bunch that nobody's ever heard, and did some crazy stuff. They would let you do anything. But it wasn't like, okay, well, this is Japanese stuff. Nobody's going to hear it. We really don't care. Let's just go and take the money. It was never that. It was always, okay, it's got our name on it. People in Japan are going to hear it. Better make this stuff sound right. Every record was like that. So it's kind of hard to say that, you know, this session was better than that session. Even the Michael Jackson stuff. Yes, there was, the working day and night. That, of course, is a standout for me and for us because it's kind of a new thing that nobody knew what was going on with that horn part in there. That was great. There were a few of those Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff. Um, the tube stuff. I don't know if you know that. You know, there's a crazy tune on there that David Foster just said, "Do your thing," and it's like Frank Zappa that we did, stuff like that, and then still like even today, like Dirty Loops, it's crazy, that's in another world too. So
Yeah.
the whole, there's moments of every year that I can point out that, oh yeah, that's one of the best sessions we ever did. Well, okay, yes, I got 1,000 of the best sessions we ever did.
Yeah. Yeah. What an opportunity and just experience to be able to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure just one thing led to another, I'm sure, as your name gets out there.
Well, you play on Off the Wall, and that was really it. From, we had done a couple things before that.
Mm-hmm.
We had done The Whiz with Michael Jackson, and we did Blam with the Brothers Johnson that Quincy produced.
Okay.
And that was the first big record full horn section record that we had done. But, yeah, okay, people heard it and, that's okay. But Michael Jackson comes out with Off the Wall. Everybody heard it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, yeah, who are those guys? Let's get those guys. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
So cool. Do you have like maybe like one favorite musical memory or experience, not necessarily playing or with anybody, or just any like special experiences that just really like helped you know that like, yeah, this is why I do what I do.
A couple. I mean, when you're in LA and you're playing on all of this stuff and you're playing with the great players, there's always a moment that somebody's going to play something and you're going to go, "Oh my God, listen to that." And there have been a lot of those. Chuck Finley. There was a French horn player named Vince DeRosa
Okay.
who was the number one French horn player for like 60 years. I think he played in the studios 8 decades.
Wow.
And I don't believe I ever heard him miss a note. And he had some impossible stuff to play. Amazing. That was one. But, all kinds of stuff like that you hear people play. I was sitting next to Vince one time when he had this solo that he had to play. And I'm going, oh my God, he's not going to make it. And he played it and it was perfect,
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of that. But as a listener, I heard, so David Foster produced the Dreamgirls Broadway show album in New York City.
Okay.
And then I played and did some arranging on it. And he said, you got to go hear the show. So I went to hear it, and it was Jennifer Holliday. Before Jennifer Hudson did Dreamgirls, it was Jennifer Holliday. And she sang the big song at the end of the first act called I Am Telling You I'm Not Going, which Jennifer Hudson sang in the movie.
Okay.
But Jennifer Holliday killed it. I mean, Jennifer Hudson is nothing compared to what she was. And that particular moment was one of the most amazing moments musically that I've listened to. And another more recent one was I heard Sergei Nakaryakov play live in Paris.
Wow.
Yeah, the guy's crazy. He's just, otherworldly playing. Yeah. And it was a flugelhorn thing that he was playing that killed everybody. And it wasn't, he does this one cello piece, the Haydn cello concerto, which is like stupid circular breathing and crazy, But this was just a simple little melody that he played as an encore. And he's playing, and it's like 250 trumpet players of Paris that are hearing him in this room. And it was dead silent after that. Yeah. It was just so magnificently beautiful and very simple.
Yeah.
Every note is a piece of music to Sergei for me.
That's cool.
So, that was a good one. But, there have been a lot of key moments like that I've heard people in the studio play some outrageous things. Beautiful.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, that's been great.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, you've had a long, very great career, doing so much writing, arranging, and playing for so many, big people and artists and whatnot. Looking back, with that hindsight, 2020, is there anything that you would change, about how you went about things, your career, where how you went about things at all?
If I could do it over again, it would be, so when I started writing trumpet at that point, I'd kind of gotten trumpet down to, okay, I can play anything. I mean, really. And so trumpet was put on the back burner for me when I was asked to do so much writing. So because of that, trumpet took a back seat to the writing. And if I had it to do over again, I would kept trumpet on in front and not let the writing, take so much part of my time and energy and stuff. But that being said, were it not for my writing, we wouldn't have been playing on all of these great records.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of give and take there. I'm a trumpet player. I am not an arranger. It just happened to be that worked out for me. If I had my way, would you rather write or play trumpet? There's not even a question. I'm a trumpet player.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about the writing. But, we got to play on Michael Jackson. Nobody else did because of the writing.
Yeah. And that's so cool.
Yeah.
Throughout your career, were you still playing with Seawind and live? or in other aspects, or was it pretty much
In
studio?
in so Seawind moved here in 76. 1980, I think. So we had done a few projects with Quincy by that point. I mean, his record, The Wiz, Off the Wall, Brothers Johnson, maybe Shaka Khan and Rufus, couple others maybe. I'm in with Quincy, big
Yeah.
time at this point. And I'm still with Seawind. We were going to do album number 4, I think. I asked Quincy, I said, are you interested in maybe producing a couple tunes for Seawind? And he said, yeah. Wow, great. Okay, so I went to the band that night and we had a rehearsal that night. I went to the band and I said, Quincy's kind of interested in producing a couple songs for us. The band kind of said, no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I said, if we're not going to do a record with Quincy Jones, what are we making a record for? I mean, I can sit at home and record myself on a cassette. Who cares? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's making great music and it's selling records. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. Really.
And he didn't want to do it. And I said, okay, thanks, guys. I'm out of here. And literally left that night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And until recently, I hadn't told anybody that, told the guys in the band that story. And I mentioned it to somebody on Facebook. And one of the guys in the band saw it and said, no, that's not true. And I called him up and I said, yeah, that's what happened. You
Wow.
guys bailed on Quincy. We would have had a shot then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we really didn't sell many records. It's a great band, you know.
Yeah.
And the singer should have been a star. She looked great, sounded great, not the right songs at the right time, you know.
Tough.
Yeah. So then after that point, I was done with Seawind and just doing studio stuff.
Okay. So not much live performance, I guess.
Quincy went out on so he did, I don't know, 6 or something like that, big mega stadium tour, summer tour thing with like a whole bunch of people. I mean, Shaka, Aretha, Frankie Beverly and Mays, Stevie Wonder was on at one time. We'd go like to this Astrodome and, big things like that. We did that. Al Jarreau, when he would play in bigger venues, would have the horn section come out and vocalists, background vocalists, Richard Page, who was in Mr. Mister, if you know that band, but he would have the horn section come out and we did some weekends with Jarreau for a while.
Okay.
And then nothing live. We did the Barbra Streisand Vegas shows.
Okay.
94 and 2000. And that was Lou Soloff, Gary, myself, and Warren Looning in the trumpet section. But that's it, just mostly studio stuff. Once you get into having the perfect situation in the studio, it's really hard for me to go out and play live where the sound is bad and you can't hear yourself and
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it worked for you. You figured out something, and it, look at everything. Maybe last question. What do you wish you knew when you were starting your trumpet career?
Wow, that's a good one. Well, I wish I knew a little bit more about arranging, but that's not trumpet. Wish I knew that. I guess that things were going to work out. That the trumpet was going to be all right for me.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. I mean, I'm sure there are other things that I wish I knew, but I can't think right now.
Yeah. No, I know it's a really broad question, but for the young trumpet players who are starting out their careers, what can you say to help them know?
Yeah, that's a different question these days. What would a young trumpet player these days Well, these days you got to be able to do everything. Back then, all I had to do was be able to play trumpet starting out with, because I could play, I could play whatever it was, whatever somebody wrote, I could play it. But now that's not necessarily the case. You got to, know how to use Logic, use Pro Tools, do some arranging, write some songs, know how to record, know how to mix, social networking, different ballgame these days, write songs. You got to be able to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And luckily these days it's easier to learn how to do that stuff, but yeah, I'm sure it's just totally different from when you were
Oh,
your career.
yeah. Not even close. I mean, back then it was, there was so much work that, one, it was easier to be heard. I had the band Seawind that people could hear me in. Plus, I played in a whole bunch of rehearsal big bands for like a year. I mean, at one point, I was doing 13 rehearsal bands a week. So, a lot of people heard me play then.
Yeah.
Then you start getting recommended. Gary was already set up in the studio. He was getting me on everything that he could get me on.
Yeah.
That it's a little bit different ballgame this year. It's harder to be heard. That's why you got to do the social network stuff and, put yourself there that way, form a band.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Any last career advice that you would give to a young trumpet player?
Be able to play everything, because you never know what you're going to play. If you're trying to be a studio player, you have to be able to play everything, and you have to be able to play like Wayne Bergeron. And if you can't, there's other guys that are going to be able to. Yeah. So it's crazy. I mean, I've done a couple of these clinics at colleges, and some of the guys and girls are like, "Are you guys really serious about trumpet? I mean, come on."
Yeah.
If you're thinking about doing this to make any money at all, better get your butt in the studio and start practicing. It was frightening to hear these people that consider themselves trumpet players. Oh, because, I went down, I did one at North Texas, and those guys are way into it. And, if you're not doing what they're doing, you're behind, they're going to take your job. So, yeah, it's, get your butt in the practice room, get off the phone and, learn Pro Tools and, write songs and arrangements and everything. Take composition and arranging and orchestration and all of that stuff, theory.
Yeah.
And do all of that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, really thank you so much for taking the time to.
No problem.
And I really appreciate it. So thank you again. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.